Hello friends, I'm Nukebrush, and today we are going to make Imperial infantry walker, the Can.
Time to go nuclear.
These models came to me already printed. And again there is an unusual video on the channel, since I'm again making several models at once. Today there are two models of Imperial Sentinels in standard or almost standard guard colors, olive and desert camo. As you can see, these models have similar and different elements. Mainly they have different hulls and turrets as well as weapons. The models assemble pretty well, you just need to prepare them for painting, clean up traces for 3D supports, sand the surface here and there and install magnets on the weapon. Well, it's not difficult at all. All connected parts as well as magnets are glued on superglue. When everything is ready, we can start priming. I prime models using nitro primer Mr. Surfacer 1000, that helps to identify defects, errors and other cavities that need to be eliminated before further painting. I repaired such defects discovered after the primer had dried with Mr. Surfacer 500 liquid putty. After light sanding, a second coat of basic nitro primer is applied. Now we need to prepare the models for applying primary colors and camouflage, that is, apply basic shadows and highlights. As a base for the shadows, as usual I used one-shot primer brown oxide. I apply this paint primer only to the lower parts of the hull, support and walking systems, and to removable elements, weapon turrets and weapons itself. I apply highlights using white paint and vice versa on the very top parts of the model, where the lighting falls. So two different types of hull painting, mono olive color and desert camouflage a la Cadia. For olive color I firstly use olive drab dark base paint. When this paint is applied, we can make shadows using olive drab shadow paint, which I go over all the seams and fasteners. Once the paneling elements are highlighted, we can unify the color of the entire model using olive drab base paint. I apply this paint to the entire model in a thin layer to only slightly hide the prepared shadows. On top of the base color we can apply the first highlighting paint, olive drab light base. I apply this paint only to the most prominent and top elements. I do the last layer of the highlighting using olive drab highlights paint, and again, only on the most prominent parts. Okay, let's do some desert coloring. I want to do a two-tone camo, and since it's easier to apply dark paint over light paint, I'll do the light desert color first. As the main sand color for the model, I apply desert sand paint. I cover the sentinel with a light thin layer of this undiluted sandy color. Then I apply highlights on the model using a mixed sand and white color paint on the very top parts. Can you tell? Next, I seal the necessary parts of the model with masking tape and apply green paint to all remaining surfaces of the body and removable elements. The green part of the camouflage will be provided by olive oil paint. Then we can take a brush and start highlighting all the jointing and decorative elements. I highlight the olive camouflage using olive drab shine paint. This is a simple job that requires only perseverance and a little accuracy. The sand camo is two-tone, so I'll also need two colors to highlight the pattern. I make the green color using a lighter tone of olivine paint, and dunkelgelb paint will help lighten the sand color. While the primary colors are drying, we can start highlighting the metal parts. I use polished metal paint, which I apply to the elements of piston mechanisms, springs and other bare metal parts. Later we will cover these elements with oil or fuel streaks, but for now they are sparkling clean. When all metal parts are done, we can move to the next step. So, decals. Before applying decals, as always, I coat the models with glossy varnish, this way that they will stick to the surface better. And as always, I use model chemistry for better decal application. First I apply Mark Setter Neo to place the decals, and then Mark Softer Neo for their better welding. There is not much work, the main thing is to be careful. We continue to add details to the model. This time we will be aging and weathering exhaust pipes. It's a multi-layered but fun process, as with each new layer of paint or model chemistry the model becomes more pleasing to the eye. Or at least I hope so. First I use a sponge or dry brush to apply the grey color. I used rubber and tires paint. It does a good job of simulating burnt out paint on the exhaust pipe. Then we add more carbon deposits using black paint. When the base of the suit is ready, we begin to add rust. First I take medium rust paint to imitate older rust. Then we apply brighter light rust on top of it to create the effect of more recent rust. Next is the model chemistry streaking rust. We only need a little bit of it, just to emphasize the rust spots on the exhaust pipes. Then we apply the suit using black paint and an airbrush. We will apply the final touches with pigments and streaks at the weathering stage. It is time for enamel washes. As always, before working with aggressive chemicals, it would be a good idea to protect the model with varnish. For both models I use dark brown wash for green vehicles model chemistry, which is great for green camouflages. Using a brush, we apply wash to the elements of the body and removable parts, creating volume and shadow on the model. The fluidity of enamel wash is at a high level, and if errors need to be corrected, this can be easily done with thinner. Excess washes can be easily removed with a sponge, brush or clean rag. Just do not overdo it, so as not to remove the wash along with the varnish and paint. After the washes have dried, the model can be varnished again to protect our work. The optical elements on these Sentinel models are different and quite unusual. The olive version has a whole observation cabin with elements imitating glass, hopefully it is armored one. In order to imitate the naturalness of glass, we need to show some skill. I want to create a sort of lens effect, so I am making contrast of light and shadow. The upper right corners should be darker, while the lower left corners on the contrary should be lighter. For the base color I chose blue cyan paint, which I mixed with black or white in different proportions depending on the need. The same applies to headlights on models. Only to imitate the effect of a lamp, I apply the lightest color in the center of the lantern, and leave the darkest color at the edges. To create the effect of shine on lenses and glass, I use crystal periscope green and crystal light blue paint varnishes. Now we can start creating wear and tear effect on our models. First, as usual, I make chips, with a transition from light and gentle touches to dark, rusty and deep scratches. Using a sponge, create the effect of worn and chipped paint, which most often appears in places of great distress from natural wear and tear or physical damage. For olive color sentinel I use olive drab shine, and for desert camouflage Nukebrush paint is perfect. Then, using a brush, I combine random chipped points into a single grid and also make some scratches. On top of the light chips I apply dark paint chipping, which imitates the effect of rust formed as a result of deep scratch in the paint to the bare metal. There are few such places, and therefore it is better to apply rust only to the largest chips or in those places that we want to emphasize. The main thing in applying chips is not to overdo it, and use this technique only to add some volume and shape to the model, but not to overload its appearance with excessive damage. Now we can apply weathering to the models. I'll be making fake terrain, mini diorama bases, so it's good idea to apply some dust and dirt onto our sentinels. So we dust the lower parts and especially the chassis on our models using dry and liquid pigments. We also should not forget to apply rust, fuel and oil stains to our sentinels. When the model weathering is done, we can start making our bases. A sand camo base will imitate a rocky desert with minimal vegetation. I glue a paper onto the base over which I apply the arid dry ground texture using a spatula. To level the surface, I use a spatula dipped in water. Once the texture has dried, we can mark the placement of our sentinel and lightly sand the surface in these places for a better fit. Next, we apply acrylic glue diluted with water to apply landscape elements to the base. First I use imitation stones, which are made of resin, and cork chips. To secure such stones, I also use a mixture of acrylic glue and water. Once the glue is dry, we can apply paint to imitate the color of a stony desert surface. In layers from dark to light colors, I apply one-shot primer brown oxide, clay brown and desert sand paints. When the paints have dried, I use dry brush to highlight the most prominent stones on the base. The base of the base is ready, now we need to plant the plants. I use artificial bushes from various manufacturers, which I glue with superglue. For the sentinel with olive camouflage, I will make a base with imitation of the concrete floor of a hangar. The basis for the base will be concrete texture paste. I apply it evenly with a spatula onto the prepared surface. Just like with the desert base, it is convenient to smooth out the texture using a spatula dipped in water. Decorative elements which imitate metal loops in a concrete slab are made of ordinary wire. I want to put a number marking as a concrete floor, so I make my own stencil using the method you may recognize: paper, tape, masking tape. Part of the surface of the concrete floor will be rubberized, so I mask off the rest of the base and apply rubber and tires paint to the exposed part. And the marking itself is painted black. Using the concrete dry pigment, I dust the surface and that's it. It's time to glue the model to the base. If you liked the video and want to see more models like this, feel free to comment, like and share it. And also subscribe to the channel. Good luck with your models and see you soon.